Our final presenter is Siena Baker. Siena is a junior from Chicago, Illinois in the Schreier's Honors College, Fraternal Fellows Program, and Presidential Leadership Academy, studying economics and community, environment, and development. She is a research assistant in the Department of Agriculture, Economics, Sociology, and Education, as well as Rock Ethics Institute Fellow. Siena is the president of Schreier for Women and a Scholar Ambassador. In her talk, Siena discusses the political dimensions of women organizations and urges student groups in the PSU community to reorient metrics of success towards empowerment, civic participation, and community development.
Hi everyone, thanks for sticking around to listen to me ramble at you about an organization that I'm really passionate about called Schreier for Women. And I hope to show you how Schreier for Women, in my view, has become a civic laboratory for navigating community politics, as well as providing a lens for thinking about how our on-campus organizations can help us co-create a society that we all hope to flourish and participate in. So a little bit of background on Schreier for Women first. We're an organization within the Honors College dedicated to building an empowering community of female scholars. And we do this by alleviating barriers to and bringing focus to the female potential. Our pillars are career development, service, community engagement, and special projects. That's our awesome exec board. We have a fun little photo shoot for this. So Schreier for Women is a space really just to build connections, explore ideas, issues, and passions, and support our personal and academic and professional journeys of ourselves and our peers. I'm always inspired by the movers and shakers that I'm surrounded by in Schreier for Women, and I'm really grateful for this community that welcomed me 3 years ago when I first stepped on this campus. I made my best friends, found mentors, and found wonderful staff support through this organization. So a little bit more about me. As a community environment development major, I get to explore what makes economies and societies and organizations flourish sustainably. I'm looking forward to reiterating to my grandparents over the holidays that I don't just hug trees and people all day long, but I also critically study concepts like environmental economics and international development and indigenous knowledge systems. So recently for a class, I was reading a text that outlined something called the abundant community, in which they delineated characteristics of a society and a community that members need in order to thrive. These were gift-mindedness, in which the unique capacities of its participants are cherished within the community value system. There's also the nurturing of associational life, in which there are self-organized groups for people to come together with a fundamental shared affinity. And within these organizations, those unique capacities are united to build a community fabric. And finally, there's hospitality, which is called the welcoming of strangers. And hospitality is not just an act of generosity, but rather an exercise of vitality and learning, because when we enrich our perspectives with other people's and welcome them into our community system, we can better learn how to support them. So now that I've laid out this kind of basic framing of what makes a community abundant and competent, I'd like to think about how that might actually be fostered in practice, maybe in spaces like Schreier for Women. But in a big place like Penn State, the allocation of limited resources and contested goals of stakeholders can really shape for whom a community flourishes and for whom it does not. And I think that's a really political matter. But lately, when we think about politics, we often are kind of captured in these fierce partisan issues. But I'd like to pull away from that and kind of think about how politics can actually operate at a community level and be used for thinking about the capacities of others, especially for unsupported groups. Doing politics and building democratic spaces doesn't have to be something that old white men do in government all day long. So within Schreier for Women, we build an abundant community that actually looks like a definition of politics that Plato and Aristotle envisioned, and which all members of a society can come together to flourish by resources that are fairly allocated to them and by reflecting on the standards of our society. So within Schreier for Women, I think that we build an abundant community and also serve a political society, but not just because we convene groups of women to talk about issues that we face in a patriarchal system, but rather because I view politics as an evolving project of inclusion, the co-creation of culture, and an awareness of our collective capabilities and the responsibilities that we owe to each other as civically engaged community members. So in Schreier for Women, we open our minds to the diverse experiences of womanhood, because you can be any kind of woman that you want. And also, we provide resources for flourishing and solutions for issues in our communities. So in Strive for Women, I'd like to give a few examples as to how we build this abundant community and navigate these politics. For example, our special projects team hosts an International Women's Day open mic night, in which we come together to share our stories and poems and comedy sketches and songs, not just Strive for Women members, but women from all corners of campus. And I think that providing platforms for voice like this is a wonderful activity for cultivating that hospitality and the nurturing of gifts of others. We also have a women's roundtable in which we convene other leaders of female organizations across campus to share best practices and knowledge and information and support each other's initiatives. And I think there's something really graceful about sharing information and knowledge like that in a student body that often is very competitive and kind of hoarding of status and power. We have a book club in the library where we read texts by women, non-binary people, women of color, to kind of support their journeys and provide spaces to talk about them outside of the classroom. We also have community partnerships with organizations like local schools, where we do women in STEM workshops with elementary schoolers and help Girl Scouts get their college knowledge badges. This year, we started a chapter of an international nonprofit organization called Days for Girls, which helps bring menstrual care and education about reproductive and menstrual health to communities where menstruating is a really stigmatizing and limiting part of life. So we actually have been able to raise enough money to get the resources we need and the tools and the sewing machines and been trained on how to create sustainable and reusable menstrual kits. This summer, many of our members traveled to Morogoro in Tanzania to help partner with a local organization called Modern Girl to distribute these kits and provide presentations and workshops on menstrual and sexual health so that these girls can know what's happening to their bodies and stay in the classroom. And I think that doing things like this is engaging in politics in a fundamental way because we're providing resources for the flourishing of others and enriching our own global and ethical perspectives. And finally, we try to kind of decolonize career development by providing approachable and inclusive spaces for our members to interact with really awesome alumni and faculty and entrepreneurs and mentors, and really just build these connections, again, not in a way that's quite competitive and kind of scrambling for resources, but so that we can do this together and build those partnerships for success. So while doing all this, it can be kind of difficult to navigate the identity and the administrative politics that come with being a women's organization, because a lot of people don't always respect us or take us seriously or understand what we're trying to do, especially because we don't have kind of a technical and tangible metric for success, like 10 million for the kids or like winning a case comp. Our goals are more fluid, but I'm really proud of that because I think practicing essential characteristics like empowerment and eliminating oppressive power dynamics and sharing knowledge and resources and engaging in service with and for other women are just as important as those other metrics for success. And I hope that in doing so we can help create a precedent for a political institutional environment that does the same and is created by students who need those spaces. So it's 2019 and people may ask, why are these spaces important given the strides that women have taken so far in this society? And I think that we have a lot more work to do. Because only 25% of the PA General Assembly is female, transgender folks and women are attacked with an egregious frequency, sexual assault is rampant in our communities, women of color don't have the spaces they need, even spaces that are for women. But I think that if we can start in spaces like Strive for Women, even that are immensely privileged, we can kind of collectively reflect on these standards and help better distribute resources and provide skills for success in a world that is often not gift-minded and not a nurturing of associational life and not hospitable to others. So I'd like to leave with some final thoughts. How can we help each other live most fully? And how can we provide everyone, regardless of their identity, the tools and the agency and the space that they need to define what fully means for themselves? Because we all need spaces that are dedicated to our flourishing and in which there is an abundant community. And for me and for so many others, that's been Strive for Women. And I hope that the mindsets that are cultivated in Strive for Women can kind of permeate throughout the places that we go when we leave here to build this more empowering environment throughout the rest of our communities. And so I'd like to thank the executive team of Strive for Women and the members of Strive for Women. You are the lifeblood of the impact this organization has and everyone who supports us along the way, even if you're not in Strive for Women. So thank you.